Hey, what's up, viewers? Patrick from Ball vs. Only back with another YouTube video, and this is episode number 5 of Direction Week on Ball versus of the day. And today's verse comes out of John 8, verse 32, which says, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." And that's what that verse means. And let's get into it. It's time for our Royal Rangers recap. And we continue our popular misinterpretations in our Bible study. And Romans 8 was what we were looking at last night. So Romans 8, starting at verse 5, and it reads, "Those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires, but those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. The mind governed by the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. Those who are in the realm of the flesh cannot please God. You, however, are not in the realm of the flesh, but are in the realm of the Spirit, if indeed the Spirit of God lives in you. And if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, they do not belong to Christ. But if Christ is in you, then even though your body is subject to death because of sin, the Spirit gives life because of righteousness." Here was the main verse. Verse 11. "And if the Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his Spirit who lives in you." Now verse 12 and verse 13, which says, "Therefore, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation, but it is not to the flesh to live according to it. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live." And finally, in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 51 and 54, and here's what it says. Starting at verse 51, it says, "Listen, I tell you a mystery. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed. In a flash, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed. For the perishable must clothe itself with the imperishable, and the mortal with immortality. When the perishable has been clothed with the imperishable, and the mortal with immortality, then the saying that is written will come true. Death has been swallowed up in victory." And that is all for the verse portion of last night's Bible study. And some of the notes were interesting is the Christian. So, what's the Christian? So, like, spirit-wise. Well, here it is. The Christian lives so basically lives in the Spirit. No. Sorry, I can't read that. I'll skip that. Has their mind on things that, are along with the Spirit. And also has Christ in them by the Spirit. And also Romans 8:11, it was a verse that was one of the misinterpreted verses, and it was not interpreted right. And actually, what Paul's trying to say is basically that if God raised Jesus by the Spirit, then he can raise us from the dead by the Spirit. That's what basically Paul's trying to say. And the verse to leave you with today is John 15, verse 2, which says, "He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes that it will be even more fruitful." And that's going to do for the video. Thanks for watching. And until next time, meet again, viewers. In every way, God's way is always the best way.